Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's live stream. We're delighted that you all are joining us. We've got an important topic we're going to spend the next hour talking about, the travel industry, where we are and where we're going. And as you can see, we've got a beautiful setting here to have the discussion. My name is Bruce Himelstein, and we're here with some good friends of the industry and of mine personally that I'm anxious to have you meet. So I'm going to start with Roger Dow. Roger is the president and CEO of U.S. Travel. Roger, thanks so much for being here.
Great being here, Bruce. Thanks.
And our host for today, John Tolbert, who's the president and managing director of this beautiful facility, the Boca Resort and Club. John, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Bruce. And Roger, welcome. Jorge, welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Jorge Pesquera, who's the president and CEO of Discover the Palm Beaches. As we get more into destination marketing, it was critical to have Jorge here. So Jorge, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Not only these questions essentially wrote themselves because of all the press that this travel industry has been getting, but we also had you write in questions. So gentlemen, I'm going to not only talk about things that are on everyone's minds, but the questions that the registrants wrote in as well. But Roger, let me start with you. Sure. A couple weeks ago, you were called to the White House to sit with the leaders of the hotel companies and with the president and the vice president. What was that meeting like?
It was it's interesting. It's just like going to your house, Bruce. It's a little bigger. But you go in the White House, the first thing, they take your temperature before you go through the gate. Then for some reason, when you get in the waiting room, they take your temperature again, like it changed, I don't know. But we met with the president in the cabinet room, which is great. You see it all the time, but and they were practicing social distancing. So where normally we'd be sitting very close together, I've been there a couple of times, we were about 6 feet apart. And the whole thing was to talk to the president and the vice president, and Wilbur Ross, who is the Secretary of Commerce, was there. And we talked about the huge damage that the travel industry, the disproportionate damage the travel industry was going through. Now, this was March 17th. The numbers we threw out to the president were nothing like as bad as they are right now. We were talking $300–400 billion loss. Now it's $519 billion. But meeting with the president, he was very interested. He had all the media there. He wanted the media to hear what was going on. And bottom line, he really cares about this industry. And we were there to, quite frankly, ask for money. And we came away with $250 billion for the travel industry, $150 billion for hotels, and $100 billion for the rest of the industry.
You know, the real valid dialogue occurs just like in regular meetings during the coffee breaks, right? After the meeting's over, before it starts. You were with you were with the leaders of the industry, all of which are friends of yours. What was the quote-unquote coffee break talk when you guys broke from the meeting?
Well, when we broke for the meeting, the president took us on a little tour. We went to the Oval Office, got photographs with him. Then we went to his little gift shop. He didn't charge, but he has cufflinks and hats and things like that. And it was a very casual meeting, and he was actually in a very, very good mood. But the thing that I spoke with him aside about, I said, Mr. President, it's important to get money to the workers and to keep the lights on, but we're going to have to come with a huge promotional campaign afterwards. We've got to get this country back, and travel can lead him back. So we had a little side conversation with himself and Wilbur Ross about the need to promote America and travel again once we get this behind us.
Roger, I'd like to just step in and thank you and Chip Rogers for all the great work American Hotel Lodging Association, U.S. Travel's doing, all the senior stakeholders and leadership of the brands. And it is impressive how you mobilized and are getting in front and getting money back into the industry and bringing our family of team members back to work or putting them in the position to transition through this period as best as possible. So thank you for your leadership, and Chip Rogers for the American Hotel Lodging Association.
Great guy. Good friend. Thank you.
Yeah, there were some pretty significant players in that room that day. It was nice to see it. It really was. Jorge, as Roger alluded to, the destinations in the markets that are going to have to come back out into the marketplace with some kind of promotion is going to be really critical. I saw a study last week that said the top destinations in the U.S., top 5 destinations in the U.S. where people want to come back to, one of the top ones is Florida. Right. How are you altering the marketing plan that you thought was going to be done last fall to when we come out of this? What's the changes, Jorge?
Well, clearly, we've had to pivot in a very big way, Bruce. I mean, we had huge plans on an international marketplace. So we have representation firms in 7 countries around the world. Of course, we had to kind of bring that in and stop doing that. We shifted to more of a message of empathy and trust, and here's the trusted and transparent information about what's going on in a marketplace. And that's the thing that destination organizations have to do. They have to become the trusted and transparent source of information for the hospitality communities that they serve. Because we are really the aggregators of all that information and the marketers of all that information. So we came right out of the gate doing a seminar with the director of the health department of Palm Beach County to come up with the early facts about the virus. We did a seminar later on, a webinar with the industry showing trends in the market, and always, delivering a message of hope, light at the end of the tunnel. The fact that we were in dire straits right now, but look at the situation in China; it's beginning to turn. Look at the situation we're going on right now, but look at what's happening in Germany and Austria and Denmark and other places that are beginning to open up and open schools and small businesses and what have you. So that's been important for us.
So this question really is for you and John, but does the term drive market get redefined here?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody seems to agree that this is going to be like concentric circles from your destination. Initially, staycations in Palm Beach County and South Florida will be the main thing we can try to attract people who have this cabin fever and yearning to get out of the house and so on, but feel comfortable by being in their car, which is, by the way, the safest place people think they might be at, and going to a very well-defined environment that is very clean, sanitized with all the rules and distancing regulations that you want. But then we'll go into the state of Florida, and we'll go into the Southeast, and we'll go into the Northeast. And people will be driving, I'm sure, from Washington and Philadelphia and New York.
I think we redefined the new drive market, and obviously the vibrancy of South Florida, Palm Beach County, and Boca Raton, with the amount of CEOs and corporate leadership that have relocated their businesses down here, those are all club member and community leaders, and they're going to build the business with us hand in glove. The Chamber of Commerce, the economic development companies, the tourism development councils, the Discover destinations, and what, of course, the governor and his leadership team are doing through Visit Florida. So we look forward to doing it when it's appropriately safe to bring our team members back and start phasing in club first, then hospitality, and build it together and as a united community. I think that's probably, when you think about when associations are needed most and when we want to come together as an industry most, are times like right now. And I'm just so pleased to be part of such a caring community that knows how important it is for people first, and the ability to kind of restore resilience and then reopen and then reimagine.
Yeah, one of the things that surprised me, as you guys probably know, I work closely with the Dart Company, who owns the Ritz-Carlton in Grand Cayman and the Kimpton Seafire. And last week we looked at the back half of the year, and actually the transient booking pace, leisure booking pace, is only about 10% off. And it gives us this optimistic feeling that people are just ready to go. Are you sensing that as well?
Not only sensing it, we're doing a lot of research. 70% of the people say they're ready to travel as soon as possible, and as John mentioned, when it's right to travel, and they're going to need a signal not only from our community in travel and tourism, but from the government and the health folks. We've done a lot of research that says if just the hotel and lodging industry says it's good to travel, maybe 25% will do so. If the government says another maybe 20%, but if it's government, health systems, and the travel industry talking about what they're doing together, it goes up to 60, 70%. So we've got to be in this together and restore confidence that these are the best places to be, cleaner than your home, and better places to be.
It's interesting, we keep hearing this term, the new normal, right? That we're in this new normal. And I think we have to hit pause for a minute and just talk about perspective. Is this the new normal, or do you see us coming out the other side being able to do things that used to be done. How do you guys look at that, John?
Listen, I think we've got to realize the seriousness and the scope of the matter. We're dealing with unprecedented pandemics. I mean, we have been around for 96 years. We opened February 6, 1926. Boca Raton is going to have its 100th anniversary, 2025. We're going to be 100 years, 2026. We are more excited about the future than the past, but we've got to get the safety components, the protocols, all of the sequence of service and steps of service that are the bare minimum, and then we need in the luxury level and the club level to accentuate those and create true points of difference to give the club member, the team member, and the customer confidence in the protocols are in place. And then they can be comfortable to come back to sanctuaries, a safe haven of a half a mile of private beach or our 365 acres or what we call harborside haven. Those will all come naturally because this is the kind of environment people want to be comfortable with, lakes, waters, and oceans. But it's really a lot of work, and it's us coming together as a community and as leadership and sharing best practices and implementing those to instill that confidence.
So I'm gonna, yeah, go ahead, Jorge.
I was going to say, I totally agree with John. I think over the short and midterm, we're going to have to do everything we can to bring trust and confidence that we are safe, that people can travel safely, and that's all of these social distance. There's a lot of smart people figuring out how to reconfigure ballrooms and casino operations and all sorts of things so that we can meet that need for confidence in the product. But I hope to God that really this is not really the new normal. I mean, I'm from Latin America. I mean, the days when people can shake hands and hug each other have to come back.
Yeah.
They have to come back.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all ready from that. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm ready to hug you, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to ask you to get specifically with your team and the ideas that you guys are having to reinvent. But before that, Roger, is there a role that the industry as a whole plays here in kind of guiding our own destiny?
Yeah, I think the industry, Bruce, has to do things together. This is not, it shouldn't be one of these things where my hotel is cleaner than your hotel or my hotel is safer than your hotel. I think we've got to have a set of industry standards on cleanliness, health standards, and we'll learn from each other. I've learned just being here last night, seeing some of the things that John and his team are doing, some great ideas that I'm going to take back to the rest of the industry. But think of when you get on a plane. You don't get a different speech about seat belts, although it's kind of boring, but seat belts and masks, you get the same speech from every single flight, whether it's American Airlines, JetBlue, or Southwest. The pilots go through the same checklist over and over and over again. And I think that's the best thing we can do as an industry, is come together with a set of standards that we put together with health experts, because we should control our own destiny rather than have the destiny controlled by someone else. And we know this business better than anyone.
So do you see organizations, Roger, that you talk with and meet with, whether it's a hotel association or whether it's MPI, are they now engaging in this discussion on behalf of an industry? Are they waiting for U.S. travel to take the lead? I mean, what's happening out there?
Well, I'm on the President's Recovery Task Force, and the other day we had a call with all the CEOs of the travel industry, and that was the theme parks, the hotels. We had airlines on there. We had a couple people from airports. We had a couple people in the trade show business. We had two city DMOs, a DMO from a territory and a DMO from a state, all getting together and talking about what we can do. Tomorrow, I'll have a call with all the associations that are in this. As mentioned, Chip Rogers with the American Hotel and Lodging Association, but also the Franchise Association and Restaurant Association, all coming together and talking about what we can do together. I've never seen the associations talk more together than they have in the past 6 weeks, and I think that's good.
That's encouraging. John, back to this whole, is this the new norm? And Roger just alluded to it. We were fortunate enough to be with you last evening. What are the real-time decisions and changes, either from an operations standpoint, departmental standpoint, that you're leading right now?
Well, I think when you think about the affected work groups between retail, travel, hospitality, restaurants, we have them all. So we're able to look at it with a lens that says, how do we look at the customer experience, the member experience, but starting with our team member first and give them a comfort level of security and confidence in that. And we are looking for the CDC and WHO, also Palm Beach County, the city of Boca Raton, the state level. I'm on the reopening team for Governor DeSantis, and the colleagues in the leadership group that's been put together this week every day outlining how are the theme parks reimagining their business, how are the retailers reimagining their business, and every one of those becomes best practices for how we look at everything from what we're doing right now to social distancing, to onboarding our team members, to giving the confidence to the customer, and that be a club member or a hospitality guest. And I'm confident that we're going to be stronger and better for it. It's going to be complicated, and it's going to be interesting in how we go about doing it. For example, the social distancing. We know that the 6-foot guidance is there. Every day it's changing. The masks are going to be part of the uniform component going forward. How are we separating the tables? Golf, tennis, spa. We have protocols at every single level to bring that back on as we start phasing back into the business. Marinas, boats, we have them all. So it has been a great perspective, and like Roger said, it's about us sharing those practices and get them implemented, because that's what's going to give the employees, our team members, and customers confidence.
So let me stop here and let me give a question to one of the folks that registered for the live stream. As we get back to business, how are hotels adjusting to getting back to meetings? We have a group scheduled for July and still planning on going forward. What will we need to do to adjust to the new normal? I guess I'll throw that to all of you guys.
So let me tell you how we're looking at it, and I don't think it's unique to just the Boca Raton Resort and Club, but we've engaged doctors, we've engaged organizational behavior specialists, and the top leaders in catering and events, social dynamics. This is an incredibly philanthropic destination, Boca Raton, Palm Beach County. All the charities, we're getting ready to go into the fall with those seasons. How do they look? How are they looking at those events? We know buffets are going to be reimagined completely. We know that the protocols, are we excited to sit around?
Do they go away, John, the buffets?
I think they do for a period of time, absolutely. Or as we were closing out, we were testing concepts and learning in those different experiences. And I think there's hybrids of those that they're reimagined. It doesn't mean they be reinvented completely. They have to be.
Yeah. So go ahead, Jorge.
I was going to add, I mean, I think there's going to be the need for a lot of more communication between the meeting planners and the destination services people, of course, and the convention services people. The logistics will become so much more complex that there's going to be an increased level of planning and organizational and logistics involved here. We are working on that during this time of working from home. Our convention services people are working on new workflows and new ideas and how to support the hospitality industry and the hotels in particular on how to make meeting planners feel comfortable when they come back.
I think this setting's a great example of that. We have ballrooms without walls, restaurants without walls. How are we reimagining the total experience from the guest and club member sequence of experience, but also with the team member at the heart and soul of it?
Yeah. John, do you anticipate a rate war?
I think, we got to remove pricing from the conversation, because it does not get cheaper to do what we're talking about doing. The cost of implementing these, think about just 4 months ago, plastic straws, the conversations around single use, and how that's all changed in the last 8 weeks. It doesn't reduce our responsibility to think creatively and be protective of the earth and our environment, but single use is back in vogue. So how does that look and get reimagined? It's not cheaper. So it's going to be a lot of us coming together, and that's why the power of the collective in is so important to be able to do this thoughtfully. And then each individual competitor can figure out their unique angle on it, but it has to reach a level of standard and a level of experience that our customers say, wow, they really care about me, and it's a noticeable difference, and my health and wellness is at the center of it.
Yeah. Roger, when we were all growing up, we had classic segmentation in hotels, right? We had National Association, corporate, local association, Smurf, all that stuff. My guess is that the classic segmentation goes away and becomes something else when we come out of this. Do you sense what segments will respond quicker and which ones will take time? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, I think one of the things that has to happen is corporate travel policy is going to have to change also. When this thing happened, a lot of people put pressure on their companies saying, hey, is it safe for me to travel? And I know they spoke with the HR department. The HR department talked to the lawyers, and they said, I've got it. Tell them not travel at all, and we have no liability. So we're going to have to get the corporations to understand what we're doing and start changing their travel policies. I think, actually, you know, Jorge said he hopes it gets back to normal sooner or later, and this isn't the new normal. I happen to agree with that. I see we're dealing with something here that we don't understand, and when you don't understand something, you have to put a whole lot of practice in place. We'll be a better industry because of this. But I recall after September 11th, people said they'd never get on an international flight again. Yet international grew to wild times. I recall the financial crisis. They said the industry is in really bad shape, and they will have a problem. And yet we had the 10 best years ever. So I think it's going to be different the first 6 months to a year. Yeah. But I'm hopeful that we're going to get back to a better place, and travel and meetings will thrive.
Yeah. Roger, I completely agree, and I say every now and then is the greatest tragedy of all would be if nothing changes coming out of this. This is an incredible opportunity in a very difficult environment. We need to seize that opportunity to reimagine our businesses.
So, you know, the headlines today are these 4 states that are kind of, I don't want to say bucking the system, but the president came out with his guidelines. The 4 states went, yeah, but here we go. What's your feeling on the rush to have these governors open their states compared to the health crisis that's going on? Where do you sense that balance?
I see it. There has to be a balance. Actually, I think it's good that different states are doing different things because we're going to learn from them. I'm watching Germany very carefully. I'm watching Sweden very carefully. I'm watching Denmark, because these are countries that are opening, and we'll learn from them. And we'll learn whether there's a snapback or whether you can open. And I think we got to watch each other, and we're going to have to learn and learn together.
Yeah.
We have Orange Theory headquartered here, as you know, one of the high-intensity training centers, and David Long, the CEO, and I spoke yesterday, and they're opening back up in China, and they're looking at this as same type of thing. They have a 45-page protocol manual. They're talking to scientists, they're talking to doctors, and we're going to learn from every part of the industry, and it's going to get better.
I think initially, Bruce, we should err on the side of caution. I think that the issue of trust and confidence that people can travel safely is uppermost in our minds. And then it will eventually evolve into a more relaxed way of doing things. But I think that bringing that sense of I am going to be okay getting on a plane, I'm going to a destination, and checking into a hotel is paramount right now.
Yeah. So we're fortunate enough being here in Florida. We have some amazing colleges here. Lynn University, FAU, FIU. I mean, it's, huh?
That's you.
Yeah, just amazing. If you're a hospitality student and you're experiencing this, are you rethinking? Should you be rethinking? Should you have confidence? What's the perspective, or what advice do people that have been around the block a little longer give to students that are ready to dive into this business?
I think one of the greatest things about our business, and probably most of us, this conversation today started at an hourly position and excelled our way through corporate, and whether it's entrepreneurial style or intrapreneurial within organizations.
What did you start as, John?
I started as an hourly employee at the Gaithersburg Marriott at the front desk in a mass hiring.
Roger, what was your first job?
I was a lifeguard. And best job I ever had. I'd like to go back to it again, but my Speedo's a little snug. But
well,
yeah.
I think we can all thank Roger for that visual. Yeah. Jorge, what was your first job?
I was also a front desk clerk at the Caribe Hilton in San Juan for a summer.
Bellboy at the Americana Inn in Albany, New York. So as you sit and mentor students, talk to students, what advice as they watch this? Because we had quite a few students sign up for this. What advice would you give them?
What I love is what great leadership does in these times of difficulty. And when you see what FAU and Dr. Peter Ritchie did, they started a certificate program for those team members, and they reached out to us early on and said, we know we're going to have some challenging transition for team members in this process. So how do we make it as easy as possible to navigate prior to bringing them back to work, which we're desperately looking to do. And so they offered a complimentary certificate program with some of the leaders in the industry and around the main disciplines. They thought they were going to have 1,000 people, and they have over 80,000 people engaged or soon to be engaged in this program. That's the kind of stewardship. And those students that are signing up for it, those team members that want lifelong learning, that's our responsibility to each other, is continual learning. And what a great example of that in our own backyard.
Roger, what advice do you give the students?
My advice to students is this is a great industry and going to be a greater industry. When we all started in the business, it was a U.S. business, and it was a Puerto Rico business, and it was a European business. Now it's a global business, and I think the great thing about this is travel is everywhere. We're such a big part of the global economy. I think that the sky's the limit, and no longer will you just work in Gaithersburg or Boca Raton or St. Petersburg or whatever. You can work in Beijing, you can work in Saudi Arabia. I think the sky's the limit, and there's going to be, for smart students, there's going to be great opportunities. I would be excited about the future.
So stay the course.
I would absolutely stay the course.
Awesome. Gentlemen, go ahead, Jorge.
I was going to add to that, I agree. It's the world's biggest industry. You get the opportunity to travel. I've had the good fortune to work in the UK and in LA and New York and different places. But I think there's a message here about being prepared for asteroids being thrown your way. Being able to see that life sometimes throws you a curveball and you have to get up and move again. And I think that's a lesson that we all need to learn. It's about, not being down, but being confident that you can continue to move forward and overcome these challenges.
Great. Gentlemen, last question. Roger, I know that we're going to come back in a second. You mentioned it earlier. You're on the President's Recovery Task Force. And John, you're on the Governor's Recovery Task Force. What are some of the early dialogues that are happening that you can share?
Well, obviously, getting team members and employees back to work is everyone's priority, but doing it in a really smart, safe, and measured manner, hand in glove, and letting the data and science drive that conversation when we reintroduce club, hotel, and resort services back in. The great news about that is we've got some best practices we were closing out the last couple weeks prior to the stay at home. And I will tell you, the governor's initiative of putting this together, the city of Boca Raton, with our leadership here, Palm Beach County, and the state level, supported by great associations, we're on the right track.
So are you able to share any, it's headlines every day now, but are you able to share what may open when?
Sure. I think there's a lot of dialogue at the city and county level. Obviously, city, then county, then state. There's some conversation about what happens tomorrow with Governor DeSantis, and then obviously Verdina Baker, who's our Palm Beach County manager, is going to make some announcements. But we're having active conversations around golf, tennis, marinas, parks, recreation, beaches, all active, and I see those coming on in a very thoughtful and phased manner. When the data will allow that, when we see 14 days of statistical testing declines, we'll see those reemerging.
Okay.
One thing that came out of the White House, we had a call last week, and there were CEOs from financial services, banking, healthcare, travel, tourism, hospitality, and the overwhelming word was testing, testing, testing. Everybody wants available, quick, fast testing. And I think we're going to go into a phase where especially employees are going to go through testing, and there's going to be more available testing. But that was the thing people mostly asked for. And the second thing is to be able to promote. The importance of the Convention and Visitors Bureaus is so critical to bring this back. And Jorge, I mean, you've got a big job, but so do 400 or 500 of your colleagues have this job. You're going to bring it back, and travel will bring the economy back faster than anything else.
That's great.
I think if I may add to that, some of the things that have been going on in terms of research for destination organizations, the work that Destinations International Foundation has done in terms of the things that we need to do to evolve the business, indicate that this effort about community engagement, having the community understand what you do and rally behind what tourism is all about, understand the contribution that tourism makes to the community. All of these things have been important. We included that as part of our strategic plan 3 years ago, and because of that, I think we've had a great level of support from all of our partners.
That's great. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you on behalf of the 1,000+ people that are tuning in and watching this. Having leaders like you share some time during this critical piece within the travel industry means a lot. So, Jorge, John, Roger, excuse me, Roger, thank you very much, gentlemen, for giving us the time. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy.
Absolutely.
Thank
you.